and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby. Today, I'm delighted to continue in our series looking at the ultimate FinTech workplace. In the Financial Technologist magazine, we picked out some of the best workplaces in the FinTech arena, and I'm delighted to say that SteelEye was one of those. We are joined today by Matt Smith and Emmy. Welcome to both of you. How are you both?
Well, thank you.
Very well. Thanks, Toby.
Thanks for having us.
Congratulations. Well, not at all. Thanks for coming on. And I loved listening to you guys doing it last time where we sent your application over to the judges. It was where we had the shortlist and talked through some of the reasons why these companies are great places to work. I thought yours was absolutely fantastic and one of the standout 5 that we shortlisted in the end. We'll go into all of that and talk through some of the reasons why SteelEye is such a great place to work in a second. Before we do that, can you just give us a brief précis overview of what SteelEye does?
Sure. So SteelEye is a reg tech business, but in all reality, we're a data business. So we take a very data focused approach to solving regulatory problems. And what we really are is a data aggregation platform. So we bring together huge volumes of data, things like communications. It could be email, voice, Bloomberg chats, phone calls, Zoom, WhatsApp, orders and trades. We bring in information related to counterparties your firm might deal with. So this could be companies, it could be individuals within those firms. We bring in information on your employees. All of this required by regulation, international. So this is worldwide in its context. We enrich that with reference data, so information on companies like legal entity identifiers. We bring in instrument reference data. We bring in market data. So we have market price and volume from Refinitiv. We bring in news, and then by having that all in one place, we're able to solve an array of regulatory challenges which traditionally are disparate and independent. Communication, which is record keeping, analytics, and surveillance. Trade surveillance, which includes transactional cost analysis, best execution, trade surveillance, market abuse detection, so seeking out financial crime. And then with that same data, we solve for some of the transparency regimes around regulatory reporting. Today we support MiFID and EMIR. And then we bring that all together with a case manager, which allows for the reconstruction of events and the analysis of events. And that's what SteelEye does.
If I could just summarize that in one sentence, I think I'd say that through all of the data innovation, we actually just make compliance easier for financial firms.
Exactly right, and that has been one of the key aspects of this year, hasn't it? So what I find remarkable and what I love about this sort of story is that despite 2020 being such a difficult time, for SteelEye, it's been a period of extraordinary growth, right? And I've known the business since you started 4 or 5 years ago now, and to see this sort of story of growth where I think the sort of culture of SteelEye had always been the sort of magic recipe. To see a business sort of double in size plus over the course of the last year and keep that sort of special ingredient that had been so much a part of the physical location of everyone as much as anything else has been incredible to see. And we're going to go into all of that now, I'm delighted to say. So a business that's absolutely thriving professionally in a difficult time has been in no small part down to the culture that you've been able to create. So if I start with that, how would you guys describe the culture of SteelEye?
I always look at the culture, which has taken years to evolve and to get the right rhythm, as being a family. And I think, as we look to assess people joining the firm, we look for people that are very like-minded. So to start with, you need to have a passion for data. That's what we do. If you don't like data, this probably is not the right environment for you.
Who doesn't?
And people, we look for people who have a passion for people. So those are the two kind of fundamental cultural baselines that we seek out. Then from a general company perspective, we look to try to have fun together. We're constantly looking at new ways of interacting. It's more challenging in times like COVID. We find our rhythm. We've recently moved to a new office here on the Strand in London. And as you can see, it's largely empty. So I'm looking forward to a day when everybody's back together here. And
not long to go now.
Yeah, I think just to add to what Matt just said, for me, the culture at SteelEye is actually all about that team. And I've been with the company for nearly 2 years in May, and it didn't take long before I felt like I was really an integral part. And what I mean with that is working in a startup or a scale up is it's a lot of pressure, lots to do. But SteelEye always strikes this balance between working hard and doing what we need to do, but having fun at the same time. This is why we have, in normal office environments, every Friday we go to the pub together at 4 o'clock. We have regular socials, we do wine tastings, and this is carried on throughout the past year, where we've done every single Friday, we've continued to have a social. We've had some hosted by external people who put on quizzes and things like that, or we've done our own thing. But even when we're not physically seeing each other, we're still hanging out. And I think that ability to bond with your colleagues beyond work is a really important way that SteelEye kind of problem solves and succeeds, I suppose.
Yeah, and we try to do that, like reaching out just beyond even the direct team, right? So 2 weeks ago, we held a virtual Disney party for the kids.
Nice.
We have our Friday afternoon social, and we use that one for the kids, and we got them involved, and that was a lot of fun. This week on Friday, because of course we're in the coldest months of the year, we're throwing a virtual beach party. And near our old office, there was this fantastic restaurant called Lyman Beach, which is a Trinidadian restaurant run by a very energetic chap named Sham, who makes phenomenal Trinidadian food and cocktails. And we're sending everybody a couple of components of cocktails and components of food. So there's a goat curry and what's called doubles, which are fantastic if you haven't had them. And then we're going to do a virtual kind of cooking class as well as a cocktail making class with the guys from Lyman Beach. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So we're always thinking about new ways to engage with each other socially.
Please tell me you were dressed up as Mickey Mouse for that one, Matt.
Well, so that one was for those who have kids at a particular age. It's called Descendants, which was about the children of Disney characters like Maleficent. And so
nice for the story, even in that. Yeah, I love that. I love it, every detail. So I think that's an interesting point, isn't it? The pandemic's thrown an interesting sort of light into it. I've spoken to loads of people who've basically grown teams and have people working for them who they've never met. And if you rewind a year, the whole thought of that would have been very alien to most companies, and most companies would look at that and talk about the impact that would have on culture and assimilation of people into that team, and how they'd actually sort of get that same sort of sense of togetherness. Now, you've spoken about a little bit there, and I've always loved to talk. Every time I talk to you, I find another little bit that you guys have done just to sort of break the mold of it, because people have been talking a lot about Zoom fatigue and the Friday drinks and saying that we're a little bit tired of this or that and the other. But it seems you're constantly reinventing the wheel. Tell us a little bit about what you've done to make sure that the company remains a great place to work and does keep that special sauce in such a disconnected way.
Yeah, I mean, literally a year ago, and it might even have been this week. It was early February.
Yeah.
And it was a Friday, or maybe it was a Thursday, and we were doing our company offsite. And during the day, we had booked the Crystal Maze, which is an event place where you solve problems as a team in Soho, and we were all there. It also happened to be the morning that I was closing our Series A fundraise with 8raise. So unfortunately, I think I did one of them. I didn't get to participate in the games because I had a 2-hour window from 11 to close the deal. And we were trying to track down 2 signatories who were on some island in the Caribbean, which was hours before. And if we missed the deadline, it meant all the docs had to be rewritten and we were going to be out by weeks. So it was a hugely kind of pressureful moment. But everybody's having fun in this maze. And I'm about to fall apart with just the pressures of trying to get this thing done. It was emotional and exciting, but we did it.
From deal fatigue to Zoom fatigue.
Yeah, well, it's less about deal fatigue. It was just more about that kind of like you're right on the cusp of something. It's very high pressure and deadlines. But we got it done, and it was everybody had a great day, and culturally that was kind of who we were becoming. But then we suddenly had a solid balance sheet. That's it. It was, we had done the Series A raise, and we had a large amount of money now in the bank, and that meant we could start to build. So we went into this year from that moment on growth, and we were hiring new staff. The sales momentum had really picked up, so we were acquiring a lot of new clients. And then through the year, we ended up doubling the size of the company at every level. So from all the metrics you would look at to measure the growth of a company, we doubled it. Staff, revenue, client numbers, which As Emmy was alluding to before, puts a lot of pressure. So there's a lot of hard work going on. And then we're doing all this hiring and we're bringing people in, some of whom I've not yet met, who have joined kind of right after we closed the offices. We are like friends. Like I see them on Zoom and we interact all the time. And it really doesn't make much of a difference that we haven't met. Now, I do think things are more efficient when people are together and from a collaboration and creativity perspective. So I'm looking forward to everybody getting back in the office. But we made it work. And that just continues. Even now, I was on a call this morning with our HR team, and we in one area just in R&D, we've got 7 hires going on right now that we have to get in like right away. We're trying to get these people in. We're hiring in many areas of our business, and trying to manage the process of hiring and recruiting and engagement can be tricky in these environments, and maybe even a little bit more slow. When you're looking to kind of measure people for how they fit within the firm and the quality and capabilities they bring. I mean, you're thinking?
I was just going to say that we've talked about the culture, obviously, which is key. But as you can tell from Matt, it's Matt's and the founders and everyone who's been with SteelEye for a while. Their passion about what we're doing is so clearly there and translates incredibly well into all new starters. And I think that's a vital component for how we've managed to integrate everyone. I hired someone in March last year. She came into the office for interviews, but then started. The first week of lockdown was her official start date. And I was really worried about how she was going to feel not only a part of the team, but also really understand what SteelEye does and why we do what we do. But that message, I think, is incredibly clear to all new starters. And everyone becomes so passionate about what we're doing, because I think we all really feel like we're doing something really special here. And so I think it's a combination of culture and feeling like what you're working on is of such importance, and that's what's enabled us to do what we've
done. That's the classic sort of we see it from if you read any book about high performance, or you go to any talk or watch anything there, that vision, mission, purpose, and purpose-driven businesses are there, and it's very clear that from every interaction I have with anyone across the SteelEye team about that sort of genuine passion for what's happening and where it's going and the potential of what you're doing. And I think that's sort of when you speak to salespeople or technologists or anyone who's looking to make a move in that arena, that reg tech or fintech sort of space, you're looking for people who are looking to get involved in problems and projects that are changing the nature of the industry and really sort of helping to gain efficiency. And I think that's something you guys have always done brilliantly well. I think culture is a difficult thing to maintain during this sort of period. And as I say, I think you guys have done an incredible job at maintaining that, even pre-pandemic. I think it was always a notable feature of that. But alongside it, and particularly in a growth business and a scale-up business and startup, as you guys have been going through that journey, one of the important things there is to make sure people are continuing to develop, because in this world, you see an awful lot of people moving on and seeing their ability to progress their careers generally being about moving from one place to another to be able to get that sort of salary increase or that exposure to new technology or that exposure to developing careers. You guys have been very good at that sort of retention piece and looking at seeing people develop through the business as well and develop not only their skill set but also their careers alongside it. Tell us about how you've managed that over the last year in particular.
Well, the benefit of being in a growth company is that if you're a small company and you're a startup and you there's not a lot of depth, right? So you've got to find opportunities for people within the things that the business needs, and that is hard. So in the early days, it's really hard to show a path to progression. When the company starts to grow and you're hiring more people, then opportunities start to evolve and manifest that will give people the line of sight to where their career can go. We really believe that if there's something that people are passionate about in the organization and they feel they can contribute, get involved. We're entrepreneurial by nature. An entrepreneur doesn't necessarily mean you're starting a company. It's more about picking up challenges, embracing them with passion, and wanting to solve for them. Absolutely. So we have that available. I've always believed in my career. I don't think I've ever turned down somebody asking for training, right? And that's the same here. So when I was in corporates, if there was somebody in my organization that wanted to evolve, and as long as it was kind of roughly aligned with what they were doing, and they were demonstrating their commitment to the firm, I very much believe that we will invest in people, and we do. So we have a lot of people who do go through programs that they choose, and we'll support that. We want people to feel the pride of ownership. So we do offer equity to employees. And luckily, because we do have a strong balance sheet, we are able to pay relatively good salaries. So it's not like people are feeling that they're working at a startup, sweating and working all hours of the day and not getting compensated. We want people to be remunerated appropriately. And we're able to do that given the success we've had in the markets and the fact that we're well funded. So it's thinking about all these different things about how do you make sure people feel valued? And then there's things that you can do that have no monetary component to it. It isn't about career progression. How do you recognize people for the efforts that they put in, and for creativity, and for thinking about the company almost as if they are an owner? And many of our employees have been around for a very long time in the life cycle of our firm. So I know that they have that same passion. It's continuing to find ways to nurture that.
I think that's a really interesting element. Sorry, I'll bring you into it because I think it's highly relevant to you as well there, Emmy, is that, I think companies that do get this right do have a sense of ownership, from the team, and they do feel like that, their career is developing. That doesn't necessarily mean just titles to show that development, but they're growing within the company. I mean, is that what you're seeing as well?
I was going to say exactly that. I think one thing when you work in a startup is you get exposure to so many different of the business areas that you wouldn't get in a bigger firm. So you're naturally learning so much more than you would in a specific department in a bigger company. But I was just going to speak from personal experience at SteelEye as I joined as head of marketing 2 years ago, which has been absolutely amazing, and I've grown in the role. But there was a point where the management team realized that there was no one above me that I could learn from. And they thought, how do we encourage that? So they've sent me on multiple training programs so far. And they've also set me up with an external mentor who meets with me once a month and who just talks me through some career choices and what she's experienced. So there's definitely a thinking of who are our talent, what motivates them, makes them tick. And then also, how do we make sure that they feel like we're investing in them, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, and in that example, right, there are limitations being a small organization where, as Emmy described, we don't have people that can necessarily mentor in every role, certainly as you're kind of higher up in the organization. And we're lucky because we have a phenomenal investor group, and they've got great reach everywhere. And when I have my board meetings, we discuss a lot of things, and culture and people is one of those things. In Emmy's example, we knew that we didn't have anybody who were experts in marketing. We knew that it'd be really helpful for Emmy to have access to that. So at a board meeting, it was discussed, and one of the board members said, I know this phenomenal, talented person who's been in marketing her whole career and worked in some really big roles in big organizations. And he reached out to her, and she was kind enough to volunteer to spend time with Emmy, so she's got access to that. And we have that in other areas. In technology, we've got access to some through that investor community. So some really great industry advisors that our guys can work with and engage with. So I was trying to think, in the organization and out of the organization, how do we gain the most from the resources that are available to us?
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating area to look at, isn't it? Because there are always positions in those scaling companies, and we've been through it ourselves, where people are going into new areas which they haven't necessarily done before. So that ability to move out of it, to move outside and see other opportunities and other areas of influence that can help people grow, I think is fascinating. And look, it's clearly working for you guys, because I've said it a million times before. I think the SteelEye marketing machine is the darling of the industry. I think you guys do a great job on that. But that's another story. Let's talk a little bit. One of my favorite questions to ask when I'm talking to someone on the discovery phase of a job process, when we're talking to companies there about what they're looking for, is it's always very much focused on what they want, what a company's looking for in an individual. And one of the things I'm always very keen to push back on is what makes this company stand out. And I always sort of put the scenario together as saying that there's another company who are paying a little bit more potentially, who are in the same space as you. That doesn't necessarily mean that they get the right, every good candidate's going to get 2-3 different offers, particularly in this sort of marketplace. We know that good talent are going to see multiple opportunities coming their way. They do not make that decision based on who's paying them £5,000 more. It will always be about what's the right story for that. You guys have got a magnificent story. And I'm always really interested in being a top tier technologist or a top tier salesperson or a top tier person in marketing as to why someone, why someone would say SteelEye is the company I'm going to join, as opposed to any of the 2-3 other opportunities that I've got presented to me at the moment. Why is that, and why are you able to attract the very best talent in the marketplace at the moment, Matt?
Well, I mean, for sure, there's some great companies out there right now, and I think as a candidate going out looking for a job, especially if you're interested in going into some of the fintech early stage markets, there's some exciting stuff out there. I think that's what you should be looking for. Where's there excitement? And excitement comes from growth, from success, from opportunity, from trends, from innovation. So you should be looking at all those things. Culture is definitely one of those things. We were interviewing for a role recently, and the candidate was working for a branch office of a U.S.-based firm. And as being in a branch office, you're quite far away and disconnected from the day-to-day culture. And we think about that a lot because we've got employees in India, we've got employees in Portugal and France, and one in the US, and we're thinking about how do we get them engaged so that they feel like they're part of the organization, that they're not lost. Now, in normal times, we do an annual retreat kickoff meeting where we have everybody come over and we can do this in person. We can't do that now. Social events, we try to get people included in and engaged in, which works. But cultural kind of camaraderie is really important. And I say this quite regularly. It does feel like the people that are here are family, and I hear that term thrown around a lot within the employee community. From a technology perspective, we're quite lucky in the sense that we have built a remarkable product. And you're going into an organization, you want to know that what the world is looking for is being delivered by the firm that you're going to. And we're right on the front end of consolidation, simplification, cost reduction in the markets around reg tech. We are really disrupting things in that context. Firms are having to change to compete with us, and whether that's two firms doing 2 of the 3 things we do coming together to offer it as one thing, to having to change the whole kind of pricing structure. We don't come in the market professing to be the cheapest in the products we sell. But what we do is we don't put up barriers for the smaller firms, which sometimes we can be perceived to be less expensive. So that there's a deal we were just in the final stages of closing, and the CEO of this trading company loved our products, and his people loved our products, but the price was a lot lower than the next direct competition or the bigger competition. And this caused him some concern, to the point where he even called one of my board members saying, "What's going on? Like, why is this so inexpensive?" The reality is it's not. It's just the price entry point for one of our big competitors. When we get to the same volume of trades, the price becomes equivalent, but we have priced for entry, so they don't have to pay that ridiculously high fee just to participate. So we're thinking about kind of creative ways. Sorry, I guess I went off on a bit of a tangent, but
no, it's fine. It's fascinating and learn that as well. But that sort of comes into the whole thing there as well about why people want to join it, because you're providing solutions there that are changing the perspective of why people want to join it.
And smart people, right? So we have smart people. We look for smart people. Who doesn't? But we look for smart people. So being able to look at a problem and think, how can I do this differently to get a better result for everybody? That's what we look for. In an organization like this, you are expected to work very, very hard. And I think it's easier for people to work hard in an environment where you're having a lot of fun. And we have a lot of fun because we're solving very complex challenges and doing it as a team, not as individuals.
I just wanted to add there, Matt, I think there's an expectation for everyone to work hard, to be passionate and to perform their roles to the best of their abilities. But at SteelEye, there's never been an obligation to be seen in the office at 10 p.m. at night, or to be seen to be doing a good job. And that's one thing that I think is very important. There's a work hard, play hard culture, but there's also a work-life balance. And that's very key. We have a lot of young parents, we have a lot of young mothers. We have a very diverse group of people, and the culture is very well suited to a range of different ways that people do their jobs. I'm much more of a morning person. I like to work early, and then at about 5:30, 6ish, I am completely out of steam. I cannot work. And I've never seen the point in sitting at my desk pretending to work if I'm not achieving anything. And SteelEye will not, it's not, we haven't got a culture where you have to be seen to be working even though you're not producing any output. And that's super important to me. And the other thing I love about the company is the fact that we have the people who built the platform are still in the company. And they're still building the platform. There's a continuity of what we're doing. And it goes back to that mission. That means you just feel like you're on the brink of something absolutely fantastic and revolutionary.
Yeah, and I think to Emmy's point, like results are really everything, right? So you can work hard, you can work a little, as long as you're delivering on the results that we're expecting of you. Very, very flexible.
I think that's an interesting aspect, isn't it? And that you touched on it there, Emmy. That diversity has been, a sort of term that's been bandied around a lot over the last few years, in many cases, and particularly I think in large institutions, because it should be something that's been seen. But you guys have turned that into a considerable advantage and worked really hard to make sure it is a diverse and inclusive organization. Tell us about how it sits on the agenda for you guys, and how you've made it a strength.
I think it's all well and good trying to be diverse, but I think the second part of the puzzle is even more important, which is how do we accommodate, how are we accommodating to diverse people? Yeah. And that's where I think you can tick a box and have quotas and all sorts, but how do we make it a workplace where people of all shapes and sizes and ages and whatnot want to be and work, and how do we make that comfortable? So I think the flexibility of SteelEye has really managed that. And then, I mean, it's a generational thing, but it's always been a very diverse company. So it's never really been, I think, a card on the table in terms of we need to be more. Of course, we always need to be more, but we've always had a very diverse outlook. And because we have started with a diverse set of people, then you automatically approach every new situation, every new hire from a little slightly more balanced viewpoint. Obviously, I would like there to be more women in the company. I'm a big advocate for more female representation. That is much easier said than done, particularly when you're talking finance and when you're talking technology. But what I love about SteelEye is that we have I think we're nine women, and we have our own sessions at SteelEye about how we as women can support each other in the company. The company has signed us up to RegTech Women networking groups and events and memberships to make sure that we get the support we need, that we can talk to other women in the industry about best practices and challenges. And I think all of those things just really help to create that we're not just hiring women for the sake of it, we're creating an environment that is more diverse so that we can continue to retain our talent, attract more talent, and just become a much more diverse organization.
We're very lucky, right? We've never had let's set some metrics or KPIs for how we're going to be diverse. The company just always naturally has been. And diversity comes in many flavors, right? And we've been very lucky that we have an eclectic taste of all kinds of different diverse backgrounds, whether that's gender or religion or culture or racial, sexual orientation. All of these things are represented in our firm. And we didn't go out and try to achieve that. We're just lucky, or maybe it's just by the nature of the people that we have. That's how and who we've become. And it's been like that since day one. I mean, even in the co-founder group. And we'll continue to embrace that. We continue to support the embracement of diversity within the organization and outside of the organization. Where we can, we try to support those in the industry that are trying to be the spokespeople for these important causes.
Yes, and we're actually, next week, I'm hosting a panel with Diversity Tech Hub, which is a breakfast event for all about how women in this industry can support other women. And those are just really fun things to participate in and to have a voice and to just facilitate, which is fantastic.
No, absolutely. And I know you guys were very early stage adopters and founders in that diverse tech movement as well, which is great to see. You mentioned as well, look, I think Emmy, you mentioned it, Matt, you talked about the sort of family aspect. This has been a period of great pressure on family life. When we're seeing kids running through various Skype calls. I've seen your kids in the back of of the office there over the Christmas break at various different stages. You've talked about Disney parties, etc., etc. It's been hugely pressured on parents at various different stages, having to balance homeschooling as well as being the superhero parent, as well as being a superhero employee at the same sort of time. Yeah, I understand that that's been something that you guys have done particularly well. Tell us a little bit about how that's been managed.
Well, yeah, I mean, to begin with, right, like as crazy as we must have been to start the company when we did, all of our co-founders had young families, very young families, all of us, right? So we had all just kind of gone through the process of having 1 or 2 children who were at a very young age, which obviously makes the burden and stress of starting a company all that more difficult. And as a result, you think a lot about family. You try to include them. And we've always done this, right? This year was the first time we didn't do it, but we normally have Father Christmas come in and hand gifts out to all the kids, and we have a kids party. We try to find in the normal world events where the kids can be included, and in the virtual world, we're still trying to do that. And as a result, family has just really been part of the DNA. You, as you said, you see my kids here. They come to the office all the time. They love it. They love the people. They engage. I think my daughter knows more about what's in the cupboards and stuff in this office than I do, and she certainly knows some of the employees as well.
It's funny. It's funny, isn't it? How they sort of gain. I think I get asked every time I come out of the lounge. I ask if there's been another placement made as soon as we leave it.
I was looking
the education is great, isn't it?
Oh, it's great. Yeah. I was looking for a tape measure in the office the other day, and I called my daughter at home. She's 8. I'm like, Tiara, where's the tape measure?
Where is it?
It's over here, Daddy.
That's brilliant. But I think that actually just disconnects into the fact that the people who work for SteelEye aren't viewed as resources or means to an end. They're viewed as people. As a young woman without kids, when you or nearing your late 20s, there's a lot of apprehension about what about the day I decide to start a family. How is that going to be perceived by my company, and will I be supported? And I shared these fears with one of the co-founders early on at SteelEye when we were in the pub, and I had the funniest response, and it was just brilliant. He said, "Why wait? Just do it." And yeah. I'm not there yet. I don't want to have a family.
Why wait? Just do it.
But what that meant to me was, you're as valuable to us as you are now, and also on maternity leave, or if you have young kids. And that message will always stay with me, because that showed a completely new organization that is just open to everyone.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
On the back of family, there's actually another topic I wouldn't mind just touching on, and that's mental health. And like when you look at the world as it is today, right? Like the first round, it was very hard on people. And I think the world just in the first lockdown just rallied together. I think there's a lot of support. Then we all kind of come out and we breathe a little, and then we get locked down again. And that's really difficult for people. And then it kind of breathes out a little bit, and then almost immediately locked down again. It's been going on for a long time now, this last lockdown, and it does cause a lot of pressure on people, and then just the world as it is. Certainly in a startup, we had one of the co-founders of Monzo recently being very vocal about mental health and startups and in general, and he had struggled a lot through the lockdowns. So
really interesting article that.
Yeah, and so we're also thinking a lot about that, right? And like, how do we support people at every level? So we've been engaging with a specialist person who came in and did a virtual Zoom talk, but about coping through this type of situation. We've been really trying to reach out. I think the family network of SteelEye, I mean, by family in this context, the employees, we do a really good job of looking out for each other, and people can see where people are struggling, and it gets talked about, and we can address it. In some cases, we've got people living in very small, confined places where they're not getting out. I myself am a victim of never turning off, and maybe that's just the nature of being a founder. But we're thinking about a lot of these things. We just increased we moved our healthcare plan over to Vitality from Bupa, but we increased it to a really kind of top tier plan to make sure people are getting anything they need access to. And I think that in this current time is really important as well.
Yeah, I think it's this sort of invisible sort of aspect of all this has been the sort of mental effect on people, and the screen time. I'm seeing it with my kids. That sort of aspect of just being there and in solitary at various different stages, just there with your screen is a difficult sort of thing. And I think this lockdown, you're right, has been more difficult than the last one in many sort of ways. So that sort of ability to sort of make sure that everyone's there is a standout of great companies, and again something I think which you guys have excelled at. So we've been this is exactly one of these conversations that I knew would happen, where we've raced through the time on everything we're talking about. I'm going to ask one last question to both of you, which is, if you were, and I know we've sort of talked about numerous different aspects here, which are all the sort of silver pellets that sort of make up the sort of the great SteelEye culture that's allowed it to grow at the rate it's done. But if you're there to look at some of those key ingredients that you can say, that summing up, this is why I feel that we've, that the judges, as we say, we had judges there from some of the biggest and most successful companies in the world. We had DB1 Ventures judging on this. We had EY judging on this. We had Baringa judging on this. There was a whole host of people who were looking at this, and you guys absolutely stood out in that judging process. For people who are looking at the business and saying that this is what makes it a great culture, the key ingredients of it, what would you say are those sort of keys to making a great place to work?
All right, Emmy first.
I go first.
Throwing that one to her.
I think it is the combination of having a fantastic product that you can really understand how it solves a significant need in the market, and the fun and the family aspect of as an employee being a person and not a cog in a wheel and because of that view of the team member, of the family member that has joined as a person, we have all these amazing things like the diversity, the flexibility, the support, the mentorship, the training, and that I think is very key.
Yeah, I mean, I would lead with passion. I'm a passionate person when it comes to this business and SteelEye and the people in it, and the people that really do well here and fit well are people who are passionate about the things they do. Eventually, passionate about the company. People are willing to face challenge and adversity as a team, not alone, and work together to solve complex problems and address challenges. And then I would end off with excitement and fun, because it is exciting. Every day is different. Every day we face new challenges together, but when you overcome something together, everybody feels really great about it, and we have fun doing it.
I think the sort of testament to it is every time I talk to you guys about the business and about where you're going and what you're heading, I have this sort of smile that sort of appears across my face as I'm hearing it. I love every single aspect about it. I love I'm a massive believer in fun in the workplace, and how key an ingredient that is into it. I think family is always one of the most important parts of it, both in terms of how you act as a family, but also how you bring the family into the workplace. If you look at any great tech business, it's solving a problem that's a really interesting problem for people, and it's then you've mentioned it on a number of occasions, the quality of people you've got around you, and in that team sort of just creates more and more around it. And that was the sort of great ingredient of the growth of Netflix over recent years, of just making sure you've got people there who are raising the bar. And I see massive parallels between how they've grown and actually what you guys are doing as well, which is no bad route to follow in terms of where that goes as a business. So it's been, as always, an absolute joy and a pleasure to talk you through this. I know you guys are hiring and looking to expand again at similar rates over the course of next year. And if people are watching this, then I think they'll understand how you've been able to grow and why it is such a great opportunity. So it's a business I'm hugely passionate about, when you're using that word again. And I think it's just wonderful to see this growth and everything that's happened. So Matt, to Emmy, thank you so much for sharing that with us today. Well done again on making that list. It is a wide field that we were talking to. We spoke to some amazing companies all the way through that, and to have been shortlisted on that sort of very special list, I think was absolute testament to what you guys have been doing. So huge congratulations to you. Great to have you on the show, and we'll see you again very soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon on another episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.